I'm Dr. Leo Tarkovsky for Beacon. This is Project Mosaic interview with Jeremiah, the shaman of the Wendigo, about to give his account of how he arrived on Plague Island, events and phenomenon he has experienced. And Jeremiah, you start wherever you like. And yeah, well, how did you manage to come to the island?
On the S&O ship. I came from Chimsey, one of the refugees.
See,
Apparently the island
uh,
was gonna blow up and they told us to go to this certain dock, which I got a ride there by the Wendigos on Chimsey, and showed up on the ship, and it was a rough trip over here, but here I am.
the the island was about to blow up. Do you have explain that a bit more? What does that mean to you?
A Chimsey was about to blow up. Apparently, according to what I was told, some orb was about to self-destruct and destroy everything.
And on Chimsey, this is where your relationship with the Indigos began?
Not fully. I was actually part of a different group called the Northern Alliance. I had just arrived there. I just arrived at Chimsey while traveling in a survival caravan from Warsaw, Poland. And I was the only survivor of this caravan. But I ended up joining up with a group called the Northern Alliance, which fell apart as their sheriff was killed by friendly fire. And then I joined a group called the Cleanup Gang, also known as the CUG. I was being led by Viper, Zero, and Andy. But unfortunately, they abandoned me before the disaster occurred, and so I had to hitch a ride with the S&O.
This caravan, before the caravan, I assume you joined the caravan after the outbreak, correct?
I joined the caravan a couple of months after escaping Warsaw.
See. And so before, when you were in Warsaw, is that where you were? Is that where you're from originally?
Oh no, I'm from Texas. If you can't tell by my accent.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
well, that's what I
there.
was trying to piece together. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for a bachelor party. One of my colleagues, he was Polish. He was getting married to a Swedish princess or whatever. And we were there having a celebration when the collapse began. And since all flights were grounded to prevent the spread, I was stuck there. But I had no family back home in Texas anyway. I'm an orphan. So I stayed there and we helped. I volunteered since I'm a hematologist. I stayed and helped out in the medical departments and did what I could. But that was before the army took over and a military junta replaced the standing civilian government, and they started killing foreigners. The reason why I was spared, along with some of my colleagues, is because we were medical professionals. So they kept us alive and kept us locked up in the hospital to help their people and any Polish natives that needed help.
And your friends from the wedding, the bachelor party, they survived?
They're dead. They're dead.
So you're in Warsaw. You've been spared because of your medical background. What leads to the juntas taking over? What leads you to into the caravan? How does that happen?
The military took over because I guess the ambitions of a high-ranking general just felt that the civilian government wasn't doing enough to combat the infected, and they had the city open to all people, tourists, natives alike, and he didn't like that, so he shut off the city, quarantined everything, and then started executing foreigners that could not provide any substantial help to the efforts of their whatever the hell their plan was. So after a while of watching my friends getting executed and also innocent civilians getting executed, me and my Polish colleague that we were there to celebrate with, and his wife, we had planned to escape, and we managed to escape, but unfortunately, I ran faster than their dogs, and my friends and colleagues could not run any faster, so dogs got to them while I escaped into the woods.
Terrific. And how did you come across the caravan? Was this just a ragtag assortment that grew over time? Counter an actual caravan.
It was a ragtag assortment. They were being led by some Romani people, and They took
Okay.
anybody with them, and they heard that Chimzee in Germany was actually a good, safe location since it was in a sort of valley, and that's how, and they brought me there.
See, so in Chimsey, this is where you first encountered the Wendigos?
Yes, I met the leader of their group at the time. His name was Chris, and I'd heard that the Wendigos were practiced cannibalism, and of course I was very hesitant to accept any kind of edible anything from them. But over time, they started to show that they weren't exactly the kind of cannibals that Hollywood had depicted. None of them redneck cannibals from Hillbilly Central. So over time, I grew to tolerate them more so. And it came down to brass tacks of me getting off out of Chimzee and getting to the S&O boat. They were the ones that stepped up and helped me. Nobody else would. They did.
It's quite a that must be quite something to have to reckon with. Your background in hematology and actually being helped by prescribed to be cannibals. That must be something to adjust to, I imagine.
It was, but the Wendigo reached out to me, and I credit the Wendigo for helping me adjust to this new life. I thank him for it.
Well, yeah, well, apparently they really have given you a new life as you say, you've become the shaman of the group. And this, I imagine this would have happened when you arrived here in Zakantha, so it would have taken some time. So what happened there? So you arrived on the refugee ships from Chemzi. I'm assuming with the Wendigos as part of their group, that right?
Not necessarily. I kind of just stuck to myself and started handing out vibe stones to people because that's what I was known for at Chimsey. I was the vibe doctor or Dr. Vibes. And I used to hand out vibe stones to people as like good luck charms in a way, and I actually did believe that these stones held positive power, and I wanted to hand that out to people. I wanted to give people more positive or optimistic opinions or anything of that nature. So I wanted to help people, and while I was on that boat, some civilians, some other survivors like me, didn't like what I was doing, and they bullied me. They took all my equipment and threw it overboard and beat the crap out of me, but it was the Wendigos that stepped up and protected me. They actually kept those bullies away. And then when we got to the port, I remember giving them my gratitude and thanking them, and then I just left. I just took what supplies I was allowed to have and just went on my way to wherever I was to go.
Could you just tell me something? Is a vibe stone? Because I actually don't never encountered that term before.
Oh, that's an embarrassing piece of my history. I would take a random rock from the ground or a crystal or some kind. You know about those
Yeah.
healing crystals those hippies used to just rub on people? Yeah, I used to take one of those and I would give it positive essence or some shit. Like I would start giving it compliments. And then I would give it to somebody believing that positivity, that optimism that they could carry that with them and it would influence them to be more optimistic and be hopeful.
I see. Well, you know what I see within that is I see a precursor to your religious dint that you have now. It's a religious calling, if you want to call it that. That you were conducting an almost spiritual exercise, tokens that you were giving to people, hoping that that positive will would transfer in that way. And did you do any other sort of rituals like this, if in inverted commas, ritual?
Not really. That was pretty much it. It
Okay,
wasn't
but it was
until you
very
came.
pivotal, yeah.
Yeah. I never was a religious person. I just felt that doing something like that was just a way to try to help um spread some kind of hope because in the situation in Warsaw and the situation in that caravan, I just saw a lot of people just give up. like they killed themselves because they didn't feel that hope lived anymore. And just seeing them fall so low to go to that, to reach that point, I felt like I had to do something. So I gave them something that I didn't really believe in hopes that hopefully they would believe in it and it would help them. I wanted to help them out, and as a doctor, I could fix a broken leg, I could, give you medicine, but when it comes to the psychology of survival, there's not much I can do about that. I never took psychology in college or even really cared for it. I took hematology. And so I could find out what's wrong with your blood, but when it came to helping you with a psychological problem, didn't really have the best answers. So I figured if I gave them an object to believe in, something that they could find positivity in, that hopefully that would give them a desire to be more optimistic, to not lose hope. Didn't help out much, though. A lot of people in Chimsey thought I was insane, except the Wendigos. They just thought it was funny. But
Yeah,
survivors
Well,
on the survivors on the ship, they thought I was insane.
well, it's definitely not insane to want to still hope in people. Times when hope's at a premium. And as you said, no one has to study psychology to understand the intuition for hope, that we need to have a hope and a purpose to actually want to survive. Otherwise, we're surviving purposeless. So, that's completely understandable. So moving on to the Wendigos, you said they appreciated your non-traditional approach to this, and they actually, so then you began forming a relationship with them from there. How did you actually end up becoming a part of their organization?
I became part of their family, and I did it because the Wendigo itself spoke to me. I was lost in the woods, ironically in Wendigo Valley, and I was surviving off fruits and seeds and drinking water from the pond, and I heard a whisper in my ear as the wind blew. And then it spoke to me as clearly as you speak to me now, that I wasn't alone, that there was still hope. And I was losing mine. But I'm not proud of this, but those bullies that threw away my livelihood on that ship, I did find them. And I hid from them for days. But then the Wendigo told me to send them to him. So I did. The dead of night while they were sleeping, I slit all their throats. But I didn't feel a cold chill up my spine like a person does when they first kill somebody. I felt a warm embrace. I felt that I had done something good, and that I had eased them of their pains and sent them to the Wendigo. I sent them to the Frozen Valley so that they may live in peace. They won't suffer anymore. They'll live in prosperity. Then I found the castle in Wendigo Valley, and I found the Wendigos again, and they embraced me as if I was a long-lost brother. I told them what I did, and they didn't judge me for it. In fact, I even convinced myself every day that they probably would have held me up and beaten me up, maybe even killed me if I hadn't done what I did first. Because their intention to kill me was made very clear on that ship. I don't think ill of them at all. In fact, I hope that they are resting very well and that they are united with family.
So the Wendigos, the Wendigo family that you then met up with, they also experienced these transcendental encounters with Wendigo entity.
Yes, they do speak to the Wendigo as well. Although I speak to it more often than they do. But each one of them has had some sort of interaction with the beast of the earth. But I'm usually used as, say, the connecting line between the Wendigo and the rest of the family.
So, what was the Wendigo's reaction to your what happened with, to call them, the boss from the ship?
It didn't faze them at all. Didn't bother them. They, in fact, told me don't think on it. Leave it to the Wendigo to carry, not you.
And how did the Wendigo entity react?
It embraced me, and it thanked me for feeding corrupted souls to it. It devoured their corruption and gave them freedom in the Frozen Valley.
So,
I mean,
moving
like-
on to the... Go ahead, Marco.
I mean, like, I've also seen the Wendigo. If I didn't, I probably wouldn't be in the family at this point, so...
Just to make it crystal clear, I'm not here judging. It's literally just for our... Really
Oh, no, I
appreciate
didn't think you were.
Found that to be. The phenomena on the island, Jeremiah. There is reports, and I've witnessed this myself. There is red storm, gas cloud. It's a phenomenon. We don't know what it is. Some say it is chemical warfare. Some say it's some kind of psychoactive mass hallucination, spiritual event. Have you encountered this, and what are your thoughts on what is happening there?
I have encountered it, not a lot, but I have a few times, and it's, in my opinion, I think it is just proof of society's failure to maintain order and maintain the will, and now we're seeing fruits of their failed labor. Corruption made into a visible concoction, a gaseous form, a monster that stands in the center of it. It is all destined to happen, but unfortunately it has. So I don't know. It could be a corruption of science. It could be anything of that nature. But I know mankind is responsible.
That's an interesting take. Almost a manifestation of a collective part of humanity.
Oh.
The evil part of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what other phenomena have you encountered that would say have been considered strange in the old? I mentioned the tree that I've heard of. I've actually heard.
I don't see that as strange at all. Maybe if you asked me years ago, I would have, but from what the Wendigo has revealed to me and spoken to me of, every strange phenomenon that we see is just the works of the Wendigo, the proof of his majesty. And unless it harms people, I do not fear it. I do not see it as anything but just a miracle of the great beast of the earth.
Interesting. What is your take on the plague itself?
Proof of mankind's corruption. So we strayed too far from the will and the path that the Wendigo has set before us. Now they are slaves to society, and they are so lost in it that there's no way in saving them.
Just a couple more questions. In terms of military presence, I have seen jets flying over. There's reports of some military activity. I do not have any intelligence on that, so I don't know how to ask the question correctly. But in terms of organizations or military force, what is your experience with that? Does there seem to be outside government influence, or
from my understanding, it's my understanding the SNO are trying to establish some kind of order in the world, but I don't think they will succeed. I think humanity's too far gone, and the greatest gift that the Wendigo has ever given us is finally being given, and people are enjoying it to their fullest extent. And they will not give that up. Not easily, that is.
Literally one or two more questions. So, what do you see the Wendigo, your group, how do you see what's your goal and ourselves in? How would you like to see events transpire here?
I like to see people finally embrace who they are. To break free of the clay mold that society has cast them in. So they can no longer be enslaved to what society thinks is acceptable, to what society thinks is normal. We've proven that society has become corrupt, it's become evil. The world we live in is because of society's failure. We denied the Wendigo's gift of freedom. And now that we're finally getting it, we're finally tasting it, there are others who wish to take that away because they want control, they want power. We're finally free.
Understand. Final question, and this might be a bit sensitive, so if you're too sensitive of a question, you don't have to answer it. There are reports of human sacrifice within the family, the Wendigo family, varying different accounts of this. And again, this is the purpose of these interviews, establish baseline truth, that's census reality for us to understand. Some accounts of the Wendigos that I'm hearing, anecdotes, little gossips and so on, is that there is a underpinning human sacrifice prerequisite. If the Wendigo belief or religion or faith, whatever you refer to, philosophies of the Wendigo family are to be evangelized or at least spread out to other communities, first of all, is the human sacrifice an element of the belief system? And how do you see that becoming part of the new society that it seems like you're proposing?
No, we don't do human sacrifice. Although, at a fit of rage, I did tell Wolfric when he threatened to kill my family that I would make him our first human sacrifice. And that was a promise. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. But I said that out of rage, and he did apologize to me, and I forgive him. I hope he forgives me.
I know this is... go ahead, I'll wait.
Human sacrifice is not something we accept in the family. But if someone believes it to be a necessity to the survival for their beliefs in the Wendigo, we're not going to judge them for it. We're not going to stop them. Because human sacrifice is not anything abnormal. The Vikings did it. Other pagan faiths did it. In fact, if you look at even Christianity, it's all about the sacrifice of the shepherd to save the flock. And they even commit communion where they have bread to represent the body and wine to represent the blood. Sounds cannibalistic, in my opinion.
You say that the execution of the bullies from the ship, is that a form of sacrifice?
I believe so. It's what the Wendigo willed it.
Okay, well, that was really what I was trying to understand, was that if the Wendigo belief system was to spread to other communities, that there is a philosophy which allows for human sacrifice, and it seems to be, if I'm understanding correctly, if the Wendigo wills it, then human sacrifice is...
If I can touch on that a little bit.